Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our webinar. I'm Minta McNally, and I have the privilege of overseeing the Office of Family Engagement. Again, we're so happy to have you join us. I am a huge fan of the OPCD. I think it's one of our most important and distinctive aspects of student life here at Wake Forest. And I will tell you that my great colleagues in the Office of Personal and Career Development are committed to supporting every Wake Forest student on their own path, both as they navigate the 4 years of college and then after. Over the past decade, this team has built one of the most innovative career services programs in the country, as proven by the numerous national awards and attention that they've received. They know the market, how students think and behave, and most importantly, they care about our students so very much. And the proof is in the pudding regarding results. On average, over the past decade, over 96% of each graduating class is employed or in graduate school within 6 months of graduation. In fact, the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, that average increased to 97%. I think it's especially important to note that the college and the School of Business Employment and graduate school outcomes are practically the same each year. It's now my pleasure to introduce my good friend and colleague, Andy Chan, our Vice President for the Office of Personal and Career Development. Andy came to Wake Forest 15 years ago from his alma mater, Stanford University, where he oversaw the Stanford Graduate Business School Career Center. He also is a proven entrepreneur, having led several educational technology startups. He's a true innovator, and that has proven itself in areas outside of the OPCD here at Wake Forest, such as the Center for Entrepreneurship, the Alumni Personal and Career Development Center, the Mentoring Resource Center, the School of Professional Studies, and the Summer Immersion Pre-College Program for high school students. That's enough for me for now, and so I'll gladly hand it over to you, Andy, to get our program underway.
Thank you so much, Minta. Thank you to you and your team for all the ways that you support our families here at Wake Forest. You are great partners and great friends. Welcome, parents out there. We're really glad for you to join us. We hope that some of you may have invited some of your own students to hear a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. The purpose of our webinar today is to address some of the common questions about the college career process, the importance of experiences and internships, and how parents can best support their students through the process. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk a bit about the current job and internship market. Then I'll ask my colleague, Heidi Robinson, to join me in discussing our students' questions and challenges and how we support them. Then Heidi will interview a few of our great students to share their journeys and how they've interacted with our team and all the different things that we have here going on at Wake Forest. And we'll also try to answer your questions. So if you have a question, for those of you who sent questions, we've tried to incorporate them in our discussion. If you have questions throughout the webinar, please add them to the Q&A link at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. We'll do our best to answer them. Thank you to my team for answering those questions in advance. And we'll also look at them if we need to answer them verbally. So let's get started and talk about the current job and internship market. So one of the things that happens, especially now, this year in particular, is that, as we know, the current economy is pretty uncertain and confusing. So the job and internship market is also the same. But what's also interesting is that in some ways, what we sense that we read in the news is actually not as bad as the actual job and internship market. I'll give you a few numbers in a little bit, but oftentimes students sense it's worse than it really is, and it's definitely that case today. A lot of students may feel somewhat discouraged or frustrated You as parents may feel a little discouraged and frustrated because you're thinking, shouldn't this be taken care of by now? What will happen if they don't have something by now? And we can tell you that actually there is time, and we can help them, both us and you. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on. So in general, as we know, the external forces in news is very challenging. It's very uncertain, it's unreliable, and so people are anxious, they're weary, and there's a lot of concern for what is really going on. And what that can do is somewhat paralyze you and think that it's going to be not so great for me. Like I said, it's not actually the case for our college students. Second thing is that we sort of tend to believe that job search is easier because you went to a great school like Wake Forest, or because they have a great career office. But what we find is that job search is always really hard. Even if you're a student who's gotten something already, until they got it, they would have said, this is really rough. And it takes time and effort to apply, to interview. And at the current time, and as you know, the students are really full of a lot of academic requirements and needs that also sometimes really do take a priority to the job search. So that can make it difficult. It also can be somewhat discouraging because it's not a quick process. Sometimes you have to apply to many, many things, not hear back from a lot of them, maybe get no's after having done interviews. So as a result, it can feel a little bit like it's never going to happen. The reality is, you heard earlier, given our numbers, it does happen, but sometimes it actually happens later than we would like. And so students can sometimes blame the market, blame our office, maybe even blame what they decided to major in as being the reason, when in fact is, again, Minta spoke, all students, no matter what you major in, have ways that they can get great experiences and lead to great opportunities, whether it be jobs or graduate school, at or after graduation. Another thing that can happen, which we all know is related to just the world we live in, especially with social media, and that is when we compare ourselves to what, like, the best of what's going on out there, it can really be discouraging, and I call it, sort of a trap. There are a few students who have secured internships. There are actually some who haven't, and it can feel a little like, is it going to happen? And again, as long as they're in the process and they're taking action, and we've helped them put together their materials together, it will come together. There are actually more opportunities that will come starting now through the next couple of months. Even after students get home, there still will be opportunities for internships. So don't be spending a lot of time comparing like what else everyone else is doing, and did I do something wrong? The reality is we are where we are, wherever it might be at this moment, and we can still help you. The last thing is that, as we all know, a little bit like the butterfly that comes from the cocoon, they have to go through a very difficult process. And I actually think job search, especially in this economy, is a test of will and grit. It's a test of resilience and grit and creativity for students to say, I'm going to get back on this ride and find a way. I'm going to be creative about it. I'm going to use all the resources that the OPCD has to offer, and I'm going to make it happen. And I know that can be hard to believe that's the way to do it, but whatever you can do to help encourage your child to say, you can do it. Let's use all the resources. Let's make sure you're getting the help for the people back at Wake Forest. We can help you with that. So a couple other things that also are really challenging right now is that companies are beginning to navigate some uncertainty in hiring, but in all honesty, they're more open to hiring interns than they are maybe full-time jobs, at least not in the same flow as they were before. So it's actually a little bit more opportunity to get internships than there are jobs, even though there still are a lot of jobs out there. I do think that the internship market and sort of other kinds of experiences that we'll talk about are available. Second thing is that hiring is very unstandardized. So this is one of those things that, you may actually think, if my child didn't get something in the fall, it's not going to happen. But the reality is that there are some very well-known large companies who hire in a very organized way, whether it be in the fall or even a year and a half before the start of an internship. But there can also be large companies and lots of others. In fact, the majority of organizations, recruiting is a lot less formal. It's more just in time. We're actually seeing really cool internship opportunities come up day after day, week after week right now in the most popular areas, whether it be financial services or marketing or healthcare or technology. And they're from companies that you sort of would have thought they already had it done, but they're coming back and they're still looking for interns. And so we're making sure students are getting access to those. And our big thing is we want students to really be actively applying with their best foot forward, with the best resume, LinkedIn profile, et cetera, that they have. The other thing is that a lot of organizations are doing virtual recruiting. So there are not as many coming to our campus and all campuses around the country. And so it's important for students to actually participate in a lot of these virtual events, using virtual as a way to meet, network, and talk to these companies that never existed before. So in a lot of ways, there are actually as many, if not more, opportunities, but you actually have to use the virtual mechanisms to get there. And we have a few things we'll talk about later about how that's possible. The one last thing I'll say about just the process that's tricky is that this whole process of applying to jobs is more like rolling application process, where employers might post something that says, hey, this is going to be open until June 1st. But if they get the right set of applications that look good to them, like right now, April 15th, they'll literally like stop recruiting, or they'll leave the job posting up, but they've already made their decision. So we're trying to tell students, like, if you see something you're looking for and you think it's good, apply right now. Do not wait. Do not wait till the deadline, because it might be long gone, and they might think that, well, I had until a deadline. It's definitely not. It's a lot more like rolling admissions than it is like traditional college admissions. And so I just want to make sure that you can let students know, like, if you see something, just go for it. So apply as soon as you can. So here's some positive news. One is there are many opportunities. When we look at the overall year, over 160,000 opportunities have been posted inside Handshake, which is our system and the system that thousands of colleges use around the country. It's actually higher than it was last year. Right now, there are 50,000 jobs and 13,000 internships in the system. And of the kinds that are available, they include sales, marketing, customer success, which is like account management and customer service combined, business analysts, and some administrative and some teaching kind of roles. And so there are definitely things available. And I know that it may feel like it's not exactly maybe the brand name company you might think about, but at this point, as Heidi and I will talk more about, experience is more important than getting the perfect company and perfect job. Second thing is that when the market is in an uncertain stage like it is now, what we see is more students start thinking about grad school as an option. And so one of the things that, again, this is not necessarily for the experience you need to have this summer, but is one of those things to talk to our coaches about, given their interests career-wise. Does grad school actually have some pros and cons? What are the benefits of that? In the class of 2024 that just graduated, about 32% of the class actually went to graduate school. And that is a little higher than it has been when the market's really hot, when the number's more like 26 or 27%. So it does fluctuate depending on how the market is. Finally, I will tell you this, and this is one of those things that our employers, and we have hundreds, if not thousands of employers who actually have hired Wake Forest students in the past. They love our students. They'll tell us great work ethic, great interpersonal and teamwork skills, excellent writing and verbal communication skills, and they're very curious and quick learners. And all of the tenets of a liberal arts education enable our students to be able to have this in them. Part of the challenge oftentimes with students is, how do I talk about this in an interview? And this is one of those things that we can't tell you enough. Like, if the students can come to our office, whether it be our office hours or whether it be to talk to a coach and talk about like typical interview questions, practice an interview, they can start to figure out, how do I talk about how to translate my education into being something that's very marketable to the job that I'm looking for. So I'm going to say just a few quick things, and then we'll sort of navigate over to Heidi to ask her a few questions. First one is that in order to have like the right mindset and motivation and process to get the result you want, you really need a coach right now. It is hard to do this alone. And even though it may feel like, well, is there enough time to meet with a coach now? The answer is yes. And actually, our coaches will be working all summer long and are available after graduation, after a student leaves campus. And so it doesn't have to be here in person. We do a ton of work virtually with them. But the reality is that a student needs a game plan to be able to stay on track and to be able to actually make sure they've got their materials together, they're ready to interview, they're applying to lots of different options and not just focus on one specific thing. This whole job search process is a new process. It's not an easy one to figure out. So talking to someone who actually has seen it many times over and knows what's going on in the market would really help. On top of that, when your student comes to meet us, we need to find out what they're interested in. And our employer relations team, actually, when they know what students want, they actually try to identify companies to source opportunities. So, you know, we're actually can go do that if we know what your student wants or is looking for. If we don't know, we can't really help them on that front. As I mentioned before, finding a job is never easy. So being very disciplined and very steady to actually get out there is important. It is a competitive process. And a lot of students will say it's a lot like treating it like it's another class. And so in a way, even though it may feel like we're at the end of the semester, creating another class is actually a good mindset to have to think about it. There's one other thing, or really two, I will say, is one is to always sort of be on. And deadlines can and do change. And so students must always be sort of in the game. The basic things that we think about is use Handshake to the best of how it's created. For students who use it exactly the way it is, they are stunned about the number of opportunities there are and sort of honestly how much the system can work in your favor. I like to think about it a little bit like you're taking all of um, the tailoring that you can get out of something like Instagram where it knows what you're interested in. And then at the same time, it's like, it's got if you've been watching Netflix, in this case, if I'm actually want to work at Netflix, it'll help me find other companies like Netflix and send me opportunities that are Netflix and marketing or Netflix and data analytics. But the whole system's working for me if I actually give it the information. If I don't and treat it like it's a job search board, it's not working as hard for you as it could. So having a complete profile, saving searches, the system works for you while you sleep and it actually pushes them to you, and you can actually have the alerts sent to you every day or every week so that you can just say, well, there's something here and I don't have to go and do the searches real time, over and over again. There's another section in Handshake called collections, and there's all these basically groupings of companies that we've identified that tend to be the most popular ones Wake Forest students want. And so those all get channeled into those collections. So that's another way the system's working for you. And then finally, students need to network. And we'll talk a bit more about networking, but the main thing is that can be hard for students to do. Wake Forest network is the friendliest, most responsive network you could ever imagine if you know how to approach the person who you want to talk to. And we have a lot of information on our website about how to help students with that. You might be able to help your student practice it also, but definitely coming to talk to us, we can help them think about how to tap into people and alumni out there who are available to help them. Last thing is just widen the aperture. Students must be open to and apply for a lot of things. We like to use the ratio 50 applications to get, if you're fortunate, up to 10 interviews and getting one offer. I know that sounds like a lot, but we've had students tell us they're applying to over 100 opportunities and getting, just a couple interviews, and it feels like hard, but the actual applying is not so hard unless you're applying with like bad materials, and then that's not going to work for you. But it's actually tailing it a little bit, but then just sending it out there. But the key is that you actually have to think about how do you network too at the same time. And we can help students think about that, which is to not just be applying to jobs only online. You have to network at the same time. All right. One last thing that I will say is that we like to do these webinars because a lot of you parents out there actually work at organizations that hire young people, whether it be full-time or for internships. And so if your organization does hire young talent, like we have been able to penetrate many organizations that we never have before because you've been able to be helpful to us. So if you are one of those people where you yourself or your organization might hire a Wake Forest student, if you could, Patrick's going to put a link to our employer relations page so that you can actually go in there. We have an monthly employer newsletter. If your talent manager wants to get to know us better to hire students in the future, and that just by way of an example, like we're doing a just-in-time virtual career fair, both internships and jobs, May 2nd. And we're one of the leading schools, including others like BU, NYU, University of Chicago, University of Miami, University of Pennsylvania, Vanderbilt, William & Mary, great schools with great students. And so, if you're hiring, we love for you to be able to consider joining that career fair. It's going to be virtual, and we're going to make sure all students know about it in case your student is still looking for something in early May. All right, I'm going to stop there, giving you my little overview of the market, and let's bring Heidi on. As many of you know, Heidi is my colleague who has created all of our college career courses. She oversees all of our coaches that work with all of the students in the college, which basically is everyone when they're in their first 2 years, and then about 5,200 of them in their second and third year. So she knows college students, and I thought I would ask her some questions that you all have asked that we can sort of say are the most common questions. So Heidi, great to see you. Do you want to say welcome to everyone?
Oh, I do. Parents, we are so delighted that you are on this webinar with us. It matters to us that your child, your student, knows that they are supported. We take that very seriously. Thank you for being here.
Great, Heidi. Let's start with the first one, which is it's April 15th. Students will be off campus probably May 10th or so. Is there still time to start looking now for some kind of internship or summer experience?
Oh my goodness, yes. In fact, we were in a meeting today talking amongst ourselves for our coaching team, and two juniors just landed. I mean, just landed their internships. One doing marketing at a museum in DC, and another going ahead and following along up to DC to do some policy analysis. All sorts of things are happening right now. What ends up happening is a lot of the companies have gone ahead and done their full-time hires first. And so then they get to those interns and go ahead and do that process second. Hard for students to wait, but absolutely true that opportunities are coming up right now. A lot of times what ends up happening is as those full-time hires are completed, that's when students actually start to hear about getting interviews. So it's frustrating for our students who feel like they've turned in that application already so long ago. But the time is coming, and it's now. So folks who are applying or in that process, stay the course.
All right, that sounds good. Actually, what happens if, we talked about the difference between internships, jobs, projects, experiences, like we use a lot of different words. Can you help people unpack the difference? Because sometimes I think internships seem so formal and structured, but oftentimes that's not what companies have to offer.
Well, and that is absolutely true. I think there's this common idea that it's going to be a 10 or 12 week kind of a summer, and some larger companies have very formal, as mentioned, kinds of programs that students can go ahead and apply to, and those can be very structured and a great experience. Also, a lot of very entrepreneurial startups or ventures or smaller companies, they may not have a posted internship because they don't have that program or enough people to supervise a program, but they have projects that they need to be done over the summer. They need extra hands. And so some companies, when approached, will go ahead and say, gosh, we haven't had an intern, but we would love to have an intern. And so a lot of times, some of that is we ask our students, it's on us to work with our students to go ahead and find some of those opportunities. The project-based work is something that I think is just a boon to our students. And the project-based experience, the term we use is micro-internship. And you'll hear more about micro-internships from one of our students later, but a micro-internship can be as short as 3 days. It might be 20 hours, but it's an opportunity for students to get those same kinds of skills that they will need for their next summer, and going ahead and doing that and having some opportunities to try different things and to gain different kinds of skills that they can highlight as they go through the summer.
That's great. And I know you have a story and many stories, but a story about first year student getting some kind of work where it felt like it was not that challenging, what maybe he was expecting, but then turned it into something more interesting and better. Can you share a little of that?
Absolutely. A student who was in a college to career class said, hey, I just need to speak to you after class for a moment. I'm really passionate about golf course design, kind of niche. He said, I've been going through these golf magazines to look for leads, and there's a Wake Forest alum who has a golf course and is doing some redesign down in Alabama. And I said, fantastic. And he said, so I reached out to him, and he said, yes, I could come down and work for him this summer and dig irrigation ditches. And he said, I don't know what to do. And so we really strategized. And I said, why don't you go through all of his website, his social media, see if he's up to date. That's something you could do for him. Maybe you could negotiate dig ditches 4 days, maybe work in the office on social media and the website on the other. That alum was delighted to have updated materials, but also to have had one of our bright students go ahead and highlight a place that he really wasn't aware was in need. So I would say using those kinds of options to go ahead and ask if you can do more. If you're volunteering at a nonprofit, maybe they would let you go ahead and do a social media project, or perhaps they need help with their the different kinds of ways that they are logging donations. There are lots of different ways for students to get experience.
That's great. That's a great example of, again, a student sort of taking, always thinking like, is there another need that I can actually try to help with? And then seeing if I can get more experience that could then lead to like other things down the road. So it's not like this has to be, get this perfect internship and that'll be what I do forever.
Oh, so true. Some of our students who work in retail and in restaurants have often asked their manager, could I actually help out a little bit more in the back in the office and just use some of the skills I've gotten in courses? Or social media is another place that people always need extra hands.
That's great. So one of the things that people ask, and we talk a little bit about networking, and if you're a first year, second year student and you haven't done it before, you maybe are going back to your hometown to live. It may be a place where there are some Wake alums, or maybe there aren't many. How do we think about, like, how do we help that student still think about they have a network that they can tap into, that may be actually bigger than they actually realize?
It's so true. And part of that is because students haven't really thought about those people who are invested in their outcomes. A lot of times what we ask students to do is to draw what we call an ally map. In other words, going ahead and starting to create a visual map of the different kinds of people who really want to help them. There are different categories of people. We might say neighbors. We might say family, friends. If they were at your student's high school graduation party, that's somebody who should be on the ally map. Even trusted allies or friends, mentors from high school can be really wonderful places to go ahead and ask not only for advice, but also to hear their career story. These are the people who, if asked by a student, how can I start to get experience this summer in an area I'm interested in, they will connect those people. Sometimes I've even had students have that conversation and the person says, well, why don't you just come work for me? In fact, I've had 2 sophomores who gained their internship just from having these conversations with family friends. And the person said, well, I'm not sure why you're not coming to my office this summer. And so thinking about those people, and not a transactional conversation, but asking to hear how they arrived where they are professionally, and then also to ask for advice on how to get experience this summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, once you can have those conversations with these people who are your allies, your adult fans, they really want to help you.
They
And
do.
they most likely, given the role they play, if it happens to be a coach or a teacher, happens to be, it could be honestly the dentist or a doctor, like, they know a lot of people in the community that if they like you, they're like, oh, I can think of someone you should talk to. They can't guarantee that there's work on the other end of it, but that's up for you to go find out, and you never really know.
And Andy, just to sort of I guess, flesh out what you just said, I would say that in addition, having those conversations with adult fans or allies, it changes the relationship in some ways for the ally and for the student, because all of a sudden that person who may have known the student since they were 8 sees them as a young adult and as a professional in a way that's just different. And it really shifts the mindset for both people to be able to go ahead and work together in a different way to help that student find something that's meaningful.
Let me go to another question. So it does seem like a lot of employers want to hire juniors or maybe even seniors. They also, this job descriptions have a lot of requirements or expectations. And so a student can feel like, I'm not old enough and I don't have enough experience, so why should I even try? How do we help students really understand, where their opportunities are and how to think about that, what feels like a constraint?
I love this question. In fact, we just talked about this in class this week. The world may say no to us, but we will not say no to ourselves. So we will apply, apply, apply. And there are some students may look at a job description and say, oh my goodness, I don't have all of these skills, I can't apply. And the facts are that employers want someone that they want to work with, someone who has demonstrated interest and that wants to do the job, has some energy and excitement about the kind of work the company does. And that's more compelling than having 90% of those skills that are in the job description. To speak to the idea that only juniors get, or sophomores, are the ones who get internships, what I would say is, I could give example after example of our first years and sophomores who find summer experience. And now, again, not necessarily looking for that brand internship that's 10 or 12 weeks or whatever has been sort of part of their learned experience about what an internship might look like. We're looking for good work that gets students experiences, career experiences. I always think of it, career momentum, almost like a snowball. You start out with a small experience, and then that experience, it creates more career momentum. That momentum actually is what gets you the next thing. And so your career capital, so to speak, grows and grows with each experience. They don't need to be a formal internship for it to be valuable.
Great, 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 great. So timing wise, I think one of the questions is for some students now, they're like, let's say next year is junior year, and you might be going overseas. If you are, and there's like some internship recruiting that starts happening in the fall while you're overseas or studying, you know, in some place that's not on campus, what can students do to be prepared for that, to think ahead so that it just doesn't hit them and then realize, whoa, I'm actually in Europe and I didn't realize I should be looking for jobs? How do we help students get prepared for that process?
Absolutely. And I'll start by saying there are different timelines for different industries. So I think for students who are interested, for example, in consulting and are planning to go abroad, we really need to have them ready in July, like maybe even late June, but they've got to be ready to go because some of those applications for that junior summer internship will start opening then. And we want them to be first in the door. So I would say paying attention to the kinds of internships that someone may want, if it is a consulting, is important. So our coaches are here. We are here all summer. We take all sorts of, wherever that student is, we take those Zoom meetings from, my goodness, I've had students who are sitting on the beach and going ahead and we're talking about their resume and making sure they're ready. So I would say, in particular for students who are going abroad, same sort of a timeline. It's so much easier to go ahead and get started over the summer, have that cover letter ready, start identifying some of the places that someone might want to work, and to go ahead and pursue it that way. For other kinds of internships, perhaps marketing, or for those that might be more just in time, some in sports, different kinds of things, those won't actually open until the spring. And so for those students, they may go ahead and work on a couple of things, have an appointment or two while they're abroad, but we can go ahead and catch them on the flip side in January.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi, for all that. I am going to let you take the floor with the students to talk about their experiences, and then I'll come back at the end to ask a few outstanding questions. And like I said to the audience, if you have any questions, please just put them into the Q&A.
Thank you, Andy. And oh my goodness, thank you to our students who are here. I am delighted to see your faces, and even more delighted for our parents to get to hear from all of you. So I would love to have them first meet you. If you will just introduce yourself with name, year, major, and hometown, that would be wonderful.
Hi, I'm Lily Hustis. I'm from Athens, Georgia. I'm a junior and I'm majoring in communications with a minor in Marcom and another minor in entrepreneurship.
Hi, I'm Alex Weinstein. I'm a sophomore majoring in economics with minors in entrepreneurship and global trade and commerce studies. And I am from Bethesda, Maryland.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a junior. I'm double majoring in economics and sociology, and I'm from Long Island, New York.
Great. Thank you all. I know this is a busy time in the semester, and I deeply appreciate that you are here to share your experiences with our parents. You probably just heard us talking about the idea that sophomores or first years cannot find summer experiences that build their professional profile. And I think, Lily, I may ask you first, could you tell me about your experience and how you gained experience last summer after your sophomore year?
Yes, well, after my sophomore year, I was planning for going abroad in my junior year. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit more financially responsible as well as gaining experience in what I knew would help me in my further career path. So I did a bunch of micro internships on Parker Dewey, and through working at the OPCD, I've recommended this to a lot of freshmen and sophomores who are especially struggling to find internships or are majoring in something such as medicine or engineering where they feel as though they have to study over break or do more research type work, but they still want to have a way to make money and continue to gain experience, because this really allows students to kind of choose how many hours they want to work and kind of figure that out on their own and apply to each of them individually. And I would definitely say that this helped add a lot to my resume as well as prepare me for upcoming internships and prepare me not only for that, but for classes that I was taking this semester.
I love that. And I'm going to go to Alex and Michaela in a minute, but I feel as if there's something I must ask Lily. The micro internship, we touched on it briefly, but I haven't really talked about Parker Dewey, but could you speak to what Parker Dewey is and what a micro internship, maybe an example of one of the things that you did?
So Parker Dewey is essentially, it's only for students, so only students can apply for jobs on this platform. They analyze the student, they kind of see your credentials, they see what you've done before, they verify your resume on their own, and then they give you a list of micro internships that you can apply for. They're anywhere from 8 hours to 40, 50 hours, and they also give you the amount that it'll pay. A lot of it is in web design, marketing, stuff like that, which also helped me kind of, solidify being able to code and things like that that would help me in the future. But you can kind of tailor what you want to what they have on the website. So, like, say you're looking for a very specific kind of thing to learn about, you can kind of only search up those things, have them only tailored to that. You can also get emails sent to you like, this internship is now available. This matches what you are interested in. This matches what you like. So students can kind of see those rolling in and pick and choose. And they're easy to apply for. A lot of the information's already on their website.
I love it. Thank you. That is such a great opportunity, especially for students who may want to be at home. And I love how you strung three together. So you got all sorts of different experiences and skills that you have leveraged for this next summer. Alex, I'm going to go to you, our sophomore. You have also been very strategic about securing a summer experience. And because you're a sophomore, I was very interested in letting folks understand what your experience has been like and what kinds of things have been most effective for you in your internship search.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when Professor Robinson and Mr. Chan talk about the Wake Forest network, they are really not joking at all about how valuable it is and how much Wake alumni and current Wake students and even parents are so more than willing to help students land something that aligns with their interests. So I've been lucky enough for this summer to actually secure one official and one unofficial internship. So the official internship is with Gray Steel in Washington, D.C., which is a commercial real estate firm. And I'm going to be doing investment sales there. And the way I actually heard about Gray Steel was through three older Wake students who are in the same extracurricular group as me. And the three of them told me when I mentioned that I was interested in commercial real estate that they all had internships here in previous summers, and it was an amazing experience. So for that internship, I applied. I didn't hear back for a while, so I actually emailed the head of HR and just mentioned how interested I was and stuff. And he actually got back to me, ended up giving me an interview. And when I mentioned these three older Wake students, he was like, "Oh, well, with such such warm references, like that really puts you to the top of our priority list." So the network and just being associated with other Wake Forest students really puts you in good standings with potential employers. And the fact that they helped me with just like getting me in touch with these people really helped me secure the internship and put me on their radar. And then I also got an unofficial internship this summer in wealth management at Brown Advisory. And the way I got that was through one of my dad's best friends, who's actually a Wake alum. And he's really close with the chief investment officer at Brown Advisory. So because Demon Deacons love to help Demon Deacons, he got me in touch with him, and this was one of probably 30 or 40 networking calls that I've been on over the past few months, just trying to get my foot in the door somewhere, because I don't know exactly what I want to do. I know I want something within financial services, or banking, but I don't know exactly what. So what I've been trying to do for the past, or for this summer and next summer, is get experience in as many fields as possible. So I've got commercial real estate, and then now I've got wealth management, and it's just a 3-week short internship where I'm just going to be shadowing this guy and just learning about the way their firm works and contributing in every way I can. And that also came through the Wake Forest network. And then for next summer, I recently secured an internship in consulting at Protivity. And that was another combination of current Wake Forest students and the dad of another one of my friends at Wake, who works there. And I was actually talking to him when he came down and visited, and I told him that I'm interested in consulting, and he said, "Oh, well, you should apply to an internship at Protivity," which is where he works. And after that, the interview process was a little bit rigorous, and there was like a series of case studies that I had to do for the internship, or sorry, for the interviews. And I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but two of my older friends at Wake are actually interning at Protivity this summer. So they helped me a lot with just preparing for the interviews and understanding what I was getting into, because I was completely new to it. And it's just really, I think, one of the most valuable parts of Wake Forest, how much people want to support each other and help each other out, whether it's current students, alumni, or parents of current students. It's just really like a tight-knit supportive community, which is so unbelievably valuable.
Oh, I love hearing all of those different pieces, Alex, because in your strategy, I hear both finding your allies from home, finding allies at Wake, and then asking for advice. And I particularly love the idea that you're using these internships to sample different kinds of things and sort of figure out what you like. And as important, figure out what you don't like. Sort of similar in many ways to what Lily was doing when she was having her micro internships. So, and I just wanted to ask a follow-up question. For your unofficial internship, was that ever a posted position, or was it something that you found because you were asking for advice and having an advice conversation?
So it was actually not posted. It was completely
That's right.
unofficial. And since I'm a sophomore, they only have official posted internships for rising seniors. So I didn't qualify for the official internship, but
All
um
right.
it did actually come from like an informational interview where I was just trying to learn about wealth management and learn about, what a career in that field looks like. And I just hit it off with this guy, and he told me that he could make something happen for an unofficial little 3-week program, which I'm just so grateful for, because I think if you put yourself out there and you really hustle, especially with just trying to learn and trying to figure out what you want to do, good things can come from that, as long as you take initiative and have some drive.
Ah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I really love that you just highlighted that having conversations with people who want to give you experience, it doesn't have to be something that's posted. It can be something where you are able to go ahead and secure experience because people believe in you and they know you. Thank you, Alex. And I'm going to move to Michaela now, because Michaela, you've done a combination of a whole lot of different things. You have found professional experience on campus, and then you've also gone ahead and leveraged that to find some things for the summer. And so I'm really interested in asking you about how your process have been securing on campus, and how that helped you with last summer's internship, this summer's internship, really your story.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. And I think honestly, the best, so last year as a sophomore, I was a marketing research assistant for a marketing professor in the business school. And I'm not in the business school. And I think all of this was really just being a yes man, because this professor was looking for an assistant and I happened to be looking for a campus job. I mean, I would have taken like being the barista at campus grounds, but through that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do professionally. And through this experience, I got to have the opportunity of learning more about the knowledge in the field and also developing someone who could be a mentor or a resource. So I think it's also really important to have those good relationships with your professors, with your professional network, because people always want to help you out. My summer internship last year, also pretty random. So I like to be involved on campus. I was taking a classical guitar course and we had a speaker for the class and who ran the largest classical guitar nonprofit in the country. And he just gave this super inspiring speech. And just because I was there, he offered at the end of it, we have virtual internships if anyone is interested. I expressed interest, and then he also became an amazing mentor because he is the executive director of the nonprofit, so I got to work really close with him. And like you said before, how a lot of organizations might not have these large structured programs, I almost would take more advantage even in your younger years of opportunities like that, because there's more room to grow and to, if you have the initiative to make of the experience what you will. So for example, I got to write an article for their blog, and that was a little project that I took on. I got to interview some kids in their community organization. So even though this was all the way there in Austin and I'm in New York, so I got to do this virtually, but still learn a lot, sit in on their Zoom calls with all the staff and just learn about nonprofit work. And then this year, I secured an internship at iHeartMedia in multi-market partnerships. And to secure that, I really took advantage of, first of all, I found the opportunity on Handshake, and Handshake and LinkedIn will tell you, oh, these people from Wake Forest work here,
Right.
or these are people that you can reach out to. So because there's such a high volume of applicants on Handshake, I took advantage of sending out a high volume of emails. It never is like solely transactional, because when you want to learn, things will work out in your favor, and you can never go wrong learning something more. So that's my mentality with these informational interviews. But one of these people who got back to me had been in iHeartMedia for 30 years in Charlotte, but I was trying to go for New York. And he's also a parent at Wake Forest. And he just told me so much that I needed to know about the position. He was able to forward my resume, and that got me an interview. And then through the interview process, he was also just a helping hand and a mentor. I think that I also definitely utilized the OPCD, especially preparing for the interviews. And Sharon Ralston in the OPCD, she's awesome. The week before my interview, met with me virtually on a Friday, which I was completely pleased with that. And then she offered to meet with me virtually on Sunday before my interview. So the fact that she was able to help me out with that on a Sunday, I was super grateful for that. And it all worked out. So I would just say overall, being open to anything, being open to learn and taking initiative once you seize the opportunity, don't leave it at that, to keep going, keep asking questions. My interview actually with iHeartMedia I was thrown for a loop because I had prepared all these behavioral questions about myself, and most of the interview was run by me asking questions because, they know that you don't have that much experience or that this is also a new department in their company. So what they want to see is curiosity and initiative. So when you get asked if you have questions, you better have like 20 in your back pocket, and you better show that you're curious, because the best way to show that you're curious instead of just saying that you are is to be curious and to ask those questions and really have that open mind.
So I feel like there are some themes that are running through these stories. And Lily, we did not let you say where you're going to be this summer, but don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I feel like Alex, Michaela, Lily, not only pursuing the opportunity, but also pursuing your allies, whether they are in the community, whether they are in the organization. And I like how you said, say yes. My favorite career theorist, John Crumbolts, that's his big thing, is say yes. Say yes and do different things. And you have, you and Lily have both had an opportunity to do some things while you're on campus as well, which just adds to that whole career experience that you're having. All right, Lily, would you like to say where you are going to be this summer?
Yes, I'm working for Comcast in Atlanta. I'm very excited. I love everything that they have going on. It's a great, mix of entrepreneurship as well as marketing, which are my two largest interests. And that's something also that I would advise parents to talk to their kids about, especially going into their junior year, is look at jobs that they might want in the future and tell them to look at companies that have a great return rate from internships and that really value putting a lot of work into their interns and helping their interns grow, because a lot of those kind of internships are going to want you to come back to their company because they've helped you learn and grow so much.
I love it. You are such wise, wise Wake Foresters, and I appreciate all of this. Alex, do you have one last little nugget of advice? Little something to leave behind?
Yeah, I would say, especially in the finance space, everything is so early. So like literally you've got to be like at the beginning of your sophomore year, networking with people, and then they start really recruiting with applications and stuff in the spring of sophomore year. And it's like I'm 19 years old, like I don't know if I want to exactly what I want to do yet. And I think that's something that can definitely be very overwhelming at first, but the best thing that you can do is put yourself out there and try to learn as much as possible, because that will that can open, like it did for me, it can open doors for you that you didn't expect to be open. And it can also, it's just the best way to learn is to take a genuine interest in people who actually are living what you're considering pursuing, and
Good.
just looking to learn and looking to really put yourself out there can just open so many doors, and also give you an idea of what you want to do. So I think it's important to, even though the whole process just gets earlier and earlier, it's really important to just have an open mind
Love it.
and put yourself out there. Yeah.
Alex, Michaela, Lily. Excellent, excellent advice. I'm so proud for all of you. You have done great work, and I can't wait to hear what the next chapters hold for you. And go get them on finals. You've got this. You've got this. I know all three of you. You've got it. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michaela. Thank you, Alex. Bye, Lily.
Thank you, Alex, Lily, Michaela, very much for sharing your experiences and how those experiences have led to really great opportunities this year. And so, well done. Heidi, a couple of quick questions before we sign off. One would be, can you talk a little bit about the college to career courses?
Sure.
How can students think about getting access to them, and when? I just think that, these parents out there have students who are first years, sophomores, juniors. Can they get access to the courses as a way to do this work, and so they're not so much on their own?
Absolutely. I think the courses are sort of magical in the sense that they elevate the idea that this is important work and create space in the student schedule. They're all 1.5 credits and half semester. Alex is actually in class with me right now as a sophomore. Lily has taken 2 classes with me as a first year and a sophomore. what students can do is go to, when they're looking for registration, these college to career courses come from the Department of Education. And so students can look for them under the department and find the different courses. Little fun fact for people who are here, we will be opening at least one more section for the fall. So little bonus for people who are here, and if their child is looking for a little something to go ahead and get a jump on these different kinds of things. But students get credit for creating their resume, for learning to network, for going ahead and exploring, just as Alex was talking about, the kinds of things that are interesting to them.
Yeah, the great part about it, like you said, is the students are with their classmates. They're with you or one of the teachers you have trained up to teach them so well. And they're doing things that are hard to do, for them oftentimes the very first time. So I can't recommend them enough. You should definitely check into it. And if your student can't get into one of those classes, we have office hours every afternoon. We have coaches who are ready to help you, and leaning into your coach, the coach can actually help you, get through the process, even though you weren't in the class. So I will emphasize that too. A couple other quick thoughts that I wanted to just ask question wise. So if you're an international student, what are the ways that we help them, and who else on campus can be a great partner to an international student?
Yes, we are helping our international students every week and making sure that they have what they need. One of our best tools is called Going Global, and we purchase it every year because it is a wonderful resource to make sure that international students can see companies who are sponsoring. And so they can go ahead and use that to sort of begin to target their search. The other thing is that we work closely with ISS, and that is the group on campus who also support international students. And they actually, their office, as it turns out, is just below ours, just one or two flights of stairs down here in Arnolda. So we're able to work very closely with them and have a great coach she has been a liaison to our international students for years.
One other thing I will mention that sort of came up through Alex's conversation was just about the accelerated recruiting process, particularly for financial services, investment banking, private wealth management, and consulting. We have a lot of resources on our website. One of them in particular, so for you out there, so I oversee both the teams that work with the college students and the business students, as well as the employers. And so our business school has put together a lot of material that about finance that is on their website. We'll hopefully get that link up there. Patrick can find it. But all students know that we're pointing them to that all the time. We have a lot of things that we do in the fall to help students get up to speed, both in person and online. A lot of extra things that we help them with. So helping your student know if they have some interest in financial services to really be attentive on their toes at the beginning of their sophomore year. And you'll hear that both from the Office of Personal Career Development and from our employer relations team. There's just a lot of activity that we will be there to help them. And they can obviously contact us during the summer if they want to talk a bit more about it. Heidi, just a last word of advice that you have for parents just trying to help their student through this process right now.
Absolutely. I think two key points. One, helping your student take any small step forward in this process. Students often get stuck, and part of that is they've got so many things on their plate, and so they just need to get a little bit of positive momentum. We would love to help them with that. We would love to help them be sure that all of their marketing documents are ready to go, that they have their Handshake and their LinkedIn ready to go, and their saved searches set up. So know that we are here, and your student does not have to do it alone. I think the second thing, and you heard it a little bit from Alex and Michaela, I think all of our students talked about the power of professional relationships, otherwise known as networking. And I think parents can help encourage curiosity conversations where we go and learn about someone's career and then ask for advice on getting summer experience. It opens a door to ask that person who already cares about your student. It invites them into the process and lets them create solutions and opportunities for your student as well.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. I'll give my final thoughts. One is know that this video and the link will be available to you after, and it's really totally fine to share it with your student. To the extent you think that there were some things that were said that would be helpful to them, we would like to actually get it to them and help, hopefully in some way motivate them to want to come talk to us so that they know that we're here for them. And that the other is that no matter what they end up doing this summer, helping them just try to think about having more experiences that give them more data and information about what they like and don't like. They can come back to our office and we can help them figure out how to tell the story for whatever the next thing is. There is no perfect, if you only had gotten this, something else would have happened. The world is too unpredictable for that. The main thing is we're here to really help them figure out how to craft their story to be able to get great things that keep opening up more and more doors as they go through their lives. We want to help them with that. We're really committed to it. And as you've seen from our students today, your student will get to that place too. And it's just a matter of putting in the elbow grease and making it happen. But we're here for them. So thank you again for joining us tonight. And I'll pass it back over to Minta.
Thank you, Andy, Heidi, Michaela, Alex, and Lily. I hope all of you have enjoyed the program, and I hope you can understand why I am such a fan and I'm so bullish on our Office of Personal and Career Development. We're grateful that you spent this hour with us. Again, this is recorded. A link will be provided to you. And I want to wish you and your families a very happy holiday weekend. And as I always like to close with a go Deeks.
Oh, Deeks.
Go Deeks.